On the 20th of July 2001, some teenagers were hanging around by the Royal Canal near Binns Bridge in Drumcondra, Dublin. While walking along, they noticed a large black suitcase was submerged in the water. Thinking maybe it would have money in it, they decided to fish it out. When they started to unzip it, a foul, putrid odour hit them. Nevertheless, one of them persisted. As he unzipped it further, he confirmed what he suspected. This is the body in the suitcase. The teenagers got the attention of a woman passing by. She had just seen some Gardaí on foot patrol on Dorset Street nearby and told one of the teenagers to go get them. The Gardaí arrived, the area was sealed off, and the investigation began. So from the beginning of the investigation, Gardaí were stumped. They could tell it was a male, but he had no identification on him. He had no distinguishable marks or scars or tattoos. They put him weighing about 12 stone and aged between 25 and 40. Other than that, they didn't know anything about him. They checked with missing persons, they checked dental records here in Ireland and in the UK, but they just hit a dead end. It was going nowhere. So on the 2nd of August, the Gardaí made the drastic decision to release a posthumous photo of the deceased. They would admit that this was an unusual step to take, but that they had no other option. They released the photo of the dead man to the news and to the newspapers. They warned that the body was quite bloated so that the man would look a lot heavier than he probably had been. When I came across this case, I actually hadn't remembered this story. And when I heard about a body and in the canal, I immediately thought of the Scissor Sisters, which I'm sure some of you did as well. And I thought that didn't involve a suitcase. When I came across the image that was released to the news, I remembered it. I remember as a child seeing that image in newspapers and on the news. I won't be showing it. If you want to see it, you can do a simple Google image and you will get it. But it is a picture that will stay with you. But I didn't remember this case, and it was actually kind of the first of many bodies in canals that we had here in Dublin. The day that the photos were released, a man picked up his local paper and recognised the brown leather jacket in the photo. That night he went to Fitzgibbon Garda Station and told the Gardaí that he believed the brown jacket belonged to his friend, Adrian Bastia. Adrian Bastia was born in 1978 in Timișoara, Romania. He was from a relatively middle-class family and was well educated. He and his friends decided they wanted to leave Romania and travel to Europe. This was not out of necessity, but out of adventure. And Adrian was one of the last to leave. I say the comment about not out of necessity because in 1999, Adrian arrived into Ireland in Dublin Airport from mainland Europe, and he claimed asylum under financial reasons. In Ireland, for anybody who doesn't know, you have to, if you are a member of the EU, you can travel freely. So I can travel freely, not counting COVID. I can travel to France or Germany or Poland or any other country in the EU freely. I don't need visas. Romania only joined the EU in 2007. So in 2001, anyone from Romania would need a visa coming into Ireland. His claim for asylum was rejected and he was sent back. Later, in 1999 again, he came through on a boat from Cherbourg in France into Rosslare in Wexford. He was travelling on a fake Czech passport and he was stopped coming in. They were in the middle of processing him going back to Cherbourg when he admitted that the passport was fake and that his name was Adrian Bastia, and again he claimed asylum. I seen it in one source. I'll put it down below and I'm just gonna say it. Apparently he This time he claimed asylum for persecution for being gay. So he said that he had been arrested in Romania for kissing his boyfriend in public. He said that his boyfriend was already in Ireland now and he had travelled over to him. On the source that I seen, his mother had then come out to say very clearly that he was not gay, that she had a normal son, and that he had a girlfriend back in Romania and he had a girlfriend here, which we will learn about. While his claim this time was being processed, he was housed in Rosslare. After a while, himself and the other people that he was housed with, the other asylum seekers, were being moved to Cork, and Adrian decided that he wanted to come to Dublin, so he did. He was housed in a Santa Maria hostel in Charlemagne Street here in Dublin, and while you were an asylum seeker, you were not allowed to legally work, so he would do odd jobs in construction. It was said that Adrian did not have a very good work ethic. He would show up late to work, he sometimes just wouldn't show up at all, he drank a lot, and apparently he would start a lot of fights with other non-nationals. So it was here in the hostel that Adrian, who was 21, met 31-year-old Marina Saratseva. Marina was a Russian who had come over also in 1999. She had actually come over on a student visa for 3 months. She was studying in a language college in Leeson Street, and apparently after only 2 weeks she stopped going. When her 3-month visa expired, Marina then claimed asylum under another passport and said that she had got into Ireland through Belfast. Marina was divorced and actually had a child back in Russia that her mother was looking after. Marina had a different work ethic. Although she wasn't allowed to work legally either, she had 3 jobs. She was working constantly, she was trying to save money, and the goal was to make enough money to be able to bring her son over to Ireland. So after a while, Marina actually left the hostel and let a small flat on Strand Road in Sandymount. A while later, the flat across from her became available, and so Adrian rented this. But shortly after, he sublet it and moved in with Marina. So obviously getting a name was a huge break in the case for Gardaí. They were able to work with Interpol and find out more about Adrian. They were able to find his address and find out that his girlfriend was Marina, which led them to the flat in Strand Road. Officers gained entry and Marina was nowhere to be seen, but it was immediately clear that this was the murder scene. There was blood on the floor and on the walls. They could tell that someone had made a half-arsed attempt to clean some of it, but there was blood that was visible to the naked eye. There was also a large bloody tire iron at the scene. In a press, they found bed linen that matched some bed linen found in the suitcase. Gardaí received an anonymous tip from another Russian in Dublin that Marina had fled Ireland on the 28th of July and gone from Belfast to London. In early September, 2 detectives flew to London. They liaised with police over there and they were able to track Marina down to a flat in Kensington. She immediately confessed to her involvement and agreed to come back with Gardaí to give statements. On the 8th of July, Marina started to get ready at 2 p.m. to go in and meet some friends in the city centre. When Adrian asked her where she was going, she told him, but he wasn't happy. He said he wanted her to stay in and for them to spend the night together. She said no and told him that she had made plans to meet her friends and that she was going. So Adrian beat her. See, something I didn't mention earlier was that Marina and Adrian's relationship was quite volatile. He was quite jealous and possessive and physically violent. Marina was a hard worker. She worked 3 jobs, paid all the bills, and was faithful. Adrian was a partier. He would go missing for days. He cheated on Marina constantly, but insisted that she be faithful and was only his. They fought often, and the fights would become physical. This beating lasted for a while until Marina fled the flat at 4 p.m. in her pyjamas and got a taxi into the city centre. She met some friends at Sinnett's bar and was obviously bruised and bloody and quite upset and in her pyjamas. Her friends obviously comforted her. One of them was quite weary. She said, that they'd been through this so many times with her and told her to leave Adrian. I just want to say a point that I don't know why no one in the pub done anything. It's 4 o'clock, so it's not like it's crazy busy. It's still daytime. If a woman came in visibly upset, bruised, beaten and in her pyjamas, why are you not questioning that, and why are you not calling the Gardaí? Even if you went over and asked, is everything okay, and she said yes, she will say yes. A lot of domestic violence victims will say that. Call the Gardaí anyway. So whether they noticed or they just didn't care, I don't know. Marina said that she wanted to get Adrian out of the flat. This had been said and done many times before, but he would always return and they would be good again until they weren't. One of Marina's friends said that she knew someone who could physically evict Adrian from her flat for a fee. So Marina agreed and her friend began making some calls. She called her own brother a couple of times, and then she called another Russian-Ukrainian man, Igor Derzhok. Igor agreed. At 7 o'clock, Marina and her friends met Igor and another unidentified man on O'Connell Street. While here talking, another man that Igor knew came across them. He was a Latvian and his name was Dmitro Savilovich. They told him what their plan was and that they were going back to a flat in Sandymount. He agreed to get a taxi with them because he also lived in Sandymount. So Marina said goodbye to her friends and got a taxi with the 3 men back to her flat. When they got to Sandymount, Dmitro decided to come with them. At 7:30, while the men hid, Marina knocked on the door. Once she was in, they ran past her and dragged Adrian into the bedroom, where they held him down on the bed and beat him. This lasted 15 minutes and then they allowed him to get up. They brought him into the living room and tied him to an armchair. At this point, Marina thought, they had scared him, they beat him a bit and that he would leave. So she actually phoned some of his Romanian gypsy friends and told them that she was throwing him out and that they needed to come get him, and they said they would. The men sat down to drink some vodka and wine and would occasionally beat Adrian. They even fed him vodka. An hour later, when his friends arrived, Marina didn't know what to do because at this stage, Adrian was semi-conscious and she was afraid to hand him over to his friends or to let his friends see him in this state. So she answered the door and told them that he had already gone. He had left. They believed this and they left. At around 9 o'clock, Dmitro took Adrian's bank card to go get some vodka. When he got to the ATM and tried to take out £20, there was no money there. So Marina had given him some money, so he bought some more vodka from this. On his way back to the flat, Dmitro stopped at his own house and got his girlfriend. When they got back to the flat, his girlfriend was horrified by what was happening, and she told Marina to tell them to stop, and she didn't. This witness would say that she heard Marina tell them to knock his teeth out, and they did. They knocked out 2 crowns, and apparently she then said, "You're not so good looking now, you look like a grandfather." The couple witnessed one more beating and then left at around 10 p.m. Igor and the unidentified man, who was believed to also be Latvian, continued to beat Adrian. They would also continue to drink, and the more drunk they got, the more savage the beatings got. If Adrian said anything or made any noise, they would beat him as well. These two men were from Russia. They were from former USSR countries, and so they looked down on Adrian for being Romanian. They would have considered him a scumbag, and they would have been wondering why Marina would be with a man like this. So there was a lot of hostility between them. Anyway, so the beatings continued, and at 11:30, Adrian was in a very bad state, and the men, Igor, apparently suggested that they kill him, and allegedly a fee of 2,000 was mentioned, but Marina said no, that they couldn't kill him. Marina was no longer in control, and she didn't know what to do. Whether the plan had always been originally to just scare him and evict him, or whether it was to give him a beating like she received many beatings from him, the exact intention is not clear. But Gardaí say that a year previous to this event, Adrian assaulted Marina outside a dental clinic on the South Circular Road, and it was witnessed by one of Adrian's friends. This friend then said that he overheard a phone call that Marina made to some of her friends, and later that night, two men arrived at the flat while Adrian was out. And when he arrived back, these men apparently told him that if he assaulted her again, he would be killed. After Igor made the suggestion that they kill him and Marina said no, the men insisted that Marina go to the local garage, and get them more cigarettes. While she was gone, they knew he was in a bad state. They knew that he was slowly dying and that he was in a lot of pain. They obviously didn't want to bring him to a hospital and implicate themselves or anything like that, and so they decided to finish him off. They gave him one last final beating, and then they beat around his head with a tire iron. Marina was back in minutes, but it was too late. She found Adrian slumped in the chair, not breathing. Blood spattered the floor and walls. For the next few hours, the three of them decided what they were going to do with Adrian's body. One suggestion was the very popular Dublin Mountains, which is the go-to for hiding a body here in Dublin. But none of them had a car, so that was ruled out. And apparently the unknown Latvian decided they should throw him into the canal. So the next morning, Marina and Igor got the bus into city centre, and they bought a large family-sized suitcase from the bag shop on Talbot Street, and they returned back to the flat. They wrapped his body in sheets and they stuffed him into the case. The three of them then got the number 3 bus from Sandymount to Drumcondra. If you just try imagine that. It was a Monday morning, it was 11 o'clock. That bus would have been busy. That suitcase would have been heavy. And like, I used to think of the thoughts that must have been going through Charlotte Mulhall's mind when she was carrying the head in a bag on a bus, but they had an entire body in a family-sized suitcase. Like, I don't even know if one of them would have been able to carry that on their own. I don't know, maybe. Anyway, they got to Drumcondra and they went down to the canal and they threw the suitcase into the water. They watched it sink. It is said that the three of them then went their separate ways, and that was that. Marina said that she fled the country after the body was found because she was in fear for her own life, and the Gardaí believed that this was a valid worry. Marina was treated more like a witness than a suspect because they needed her to tell them what happened and fill in all the gaps. She said that the reason she never reported Adrian for the beatings that he gave her was because she was here illegally. She was on a different person's passport. On the 6th of September, Igor Derzhak was arrested. He admitted to his involvement in the assault, but denied being there when Adrian was murdered. 4 days later, Dmitry Savilovich was also arrested, and again he said that he was there. He admitted holding Adrian down on the bed, but said that he only punched him once, and he denied any involvement in the assaults after that. And again, him and his girlfriend had left by the time that Adrian was murdered. The third man, a Latvian who they only know as Nikolai, was believed to have left Ireland only a couple of days after the murder. He was said that he crossed into Eastern Europe, and Gardaí tried to work with Interpol, and they couldn't get him. He was said to have ties to the Russian mafia. Dmitry Savilovich pleaded guilty to false imprisonment and assault causing harm. His defence counsel said that by the time of the trial he had already been in remand for 18 months, and they said that this was particularly difficult for him because of the language barriers and because some of the other inmates had issues, including drug problems. Yes, welcome to prison. Judge Murphy said that even though he didn't take part in the murder, he had taken part in an earlier assault, and he did not seek help after he left the flat. He was sentenced to 3 years, which was backdated for the 18 months that he had served. Marina pled guilty to false imprisonment and assault causing harm also. Judge Murphy said that she believed that it was not Marina's intention to get Adrian killed, and that the situation got out of hand and she was no longer in control. And this was probably true, but she had opportunities. When his friends arrived, she could have let them take him. She could have called the police. She could have done something. And then you also have to think about the other female who said that she witnessed her saying to knock out his teeth. And she said that she told Maria to tell them to stop, and they didn't. I also have a teeny little bit of a theory in my head that what if she had agreed that Adrian had gotten so bad that he did need to be killed, and she just couldn't bear to be there for it. So this was the convenient, well, I'll pop to the shops and get cigarettes and you guys do it. The judge also said that the appropriate sentence would be 3 years, but due to the language barriers and that Marina would have to be in prison in a prison other than her native country, that it would be 2 years. Again, I just think that's a ridiculous thing. If you do the crime, you do the time. Like, language, that's your own fault for committing a crime in a different country. If I went to Germany or Poland or anywhere and I committed a crime, I wouldn't expect a more lenient sentence because I can't speak Polish or German or whatever. Igor Derzhak pleaded not guilty to murder, but he pleaded guilty to the lesser charges, again, of false imprisonment and assault. He was given 3 years for this. He was also given another year for an accessory after the fact for helping to dispose the body the next day. Like I said before, the third man has never been found or extradited back and has not faced charges. All three, so Igor, Dmitro and Marina, are all now out. Obviously, it's 2020, and we don't know where they are. Are they here? Did they go home? It's not sure. Obviously, there's people are going to have conflicting ideas about this. Like, Adrian was a wife beater, essentially, and so he's obviously, scum. But the argument then comes into play of, is it right for them to take justice into their own hands and beat him or murder him? Or should it have been a case of going to the police and getting it dealt with the right way? Either way, it's an awful way to go, and something that Marina and the other two will have to live with. So that was the body in the suitcase. As I said, this was the first case of several cases now that a body or body parts have been found in the Royal Canal, or there's also the Grand Canal in Dublin. Obviously the most notorious one is the Scissor Sisters, which happened 4 years after this one. But yeah, so the canal seems to be the second favourite place after the Dublin mountains to hide a body. But they always get found in the canal. Thank you for listening, and hopefully we will see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.